Hello, everyone. This is Kripa Anand, and welcome to the She and Success podcast, powered by She and Success Business Magazine, a platform dedicated to spotlighting the voices, strategies, and journeys of women leaders and entrepreneurs who are shaping Canada's business and policy landscape. Today, we are discussing the power of being plugged in. In 2026, as digital noise reaches an all time high, the businesses that are truly thriving are those leveraging local community and strategic connection as their primary competitive advantage. Joining us today is Karey Anne Large, CEO of the Whitby Chamber of Commerce. A dynamic leader and the recipient of the Chim Laval Award for Volunteerism, Carrie is the driving force behind Durham region's business advocacy. She has transformed the chamber into a vital voice for economic development, helping businesses move from isolation to high impact growth. So, before further ado, let's welcome this very special guest. Carrie, welcome to the podcast. Such a pleasure to have you with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Now, Carrie, many people still view chambers of commerce as a little old school, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe an old school networking club, so to say. But the
Absolutely.
reality of what you do in 2026 is much more strategic. So I'd love for you to begin the conversation by letting our audience know what is the biggest misconception about chambers and what are businesses missing by not engaging or being a part of them.
Being part of it. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great question because I do think the misconception's still out there that chambers are just networking organizations, coffee, exchanging business cards, events. And it's part of it for sure. It absolutely is part of it, but it's not the entire value
Mhm.
of being part of a chamber. I like to think of it as the core that chambers are more of economic development organizations. We advocate for those businesses, we create opportunities for businesses, and we help actually shape the environment what those businesses are operating in.
Yeah.
So when they don't engage with the chamber, they're missing out. And um, I like to think of it as three key things that they're missing. It's influence for one.
Mhm.
Businesses, the chambers are the collective voice of the business community to all levels of government, municipal,
Definitely.
provincial,
Yeah.
federal.
Mhm.
So, you're missing out on that influence if you're not a part of a chamber. Access is another one that you're missing out on to those decision makers, those people that are making those decisions on your behalf, partnerships and opportunities, some that you might not get if you weren't part of something a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And insight, of course, is actually another big one. What's
Yeah.
happening locally, what's happening right on the ground in your own community,
Mhm.
where policies are coming in, what effect you can have on those policies, and just sort of an outlook of where things are heading. And I think the biggest shift that we're seeing right now in business is those who are engaged. Those are the ones that are informed, they're more connected, and they're actually, they're more resilient because they've got a bigger
Mhm.
group around them. So it's
Yeah.
not just a place you go anymore. It's more of a
Yeah.
system that you plug into.
Definitely. I loved how you put that together because realizing that the chamber is a high level advocacy and growth
Yeah.
engine rather than just a social club is the first step to unlocking its real value.
Yeah.
Now, Carrie, let's explore the key challenges that businesses face in the Durham region. So,
Hmm.
from the extensive experience that you have, I'm sure you get, one-on-one conversations with so many people who get to share their challenges with you. So, from your perspective, what key challenges are local businesses currently facing, specifically when it comes to costs or staffing?
Yeah, absolutely. Costs continue to be the biggest pressure point for businesses. It's
Yeah.
something we hear all of the time. We were even talking about it yesterday at one of our mayor's luncheon events. And everything has gone up. Rent's gone up, insurance has gone up, borrowing costs, supply
Yeah.
chain. And sort of even if their revenue is holding,
Hmm.
margins are tighter. And they're tighter than they have been in a very, very long time. So it's hard out there. On the staffing side, it's evolved.
Hmm.
I used to hear that, we can't find people. There isn't anybody out there. But
Yeah.
now it's we can't find the right people. So
Hmm.
that mindset has been shifting. So there's a skills
Right.
mismatch out there, especially in our trades.
Yeah.
Technical roles. We're seeing challenges with retention as well.
Hmm.
Businesses are definitely feeling it. So
Yeah.
they're investing more now into sort of culture and flexibility and training because that turnover is so high and expensive, really. So
Yeah.
they're investing into a lot of things. And then there's cross-training staff. They're starting to do that as well. They're investing in automation and rethinking roles completely entirely differently. So a lot more creativity we're finding now in how businesses are structuring teams. It's more about talent alignment now. Yeah,
Definitely. I think specifically with tech and AI coming into the picture now, right?
absolutely,
Be-
absolutely.
because the skills now I think are transferable, right? Anyone can learn the technical part of it. No one can learn the soft skills part of it, right? Something that
100%.
is intrinsic. So, building on that, I just love to ask you, um, from your life experience, Carey,
Hmm.
if you think there are any soft skill that a person that has that's definitely going to succeed, because in
Yeah,
this day and age, as I said, hard skills can be transferable, but soft skills is something that you either develop yourself consciously or intentionally or are born with it.
yeah.
So what are some of the major soft skills that have been intentional in your life as well?
I mean, it's eye contact. It's shaking a hand. And I know that
Hmm.
the younger sort of generation now, they network a little bit differently than we used to do. You stand up there and give your elevator pitch, but it's still, extending that handshake. It's being a kind individual. It's intentionality, really.
Hmm.
And just like you said, you can't you can teach the hard skills. I can teach
Yeah.
anybody how to answer a phone properly, but they have to
Right.
have that knowledge behind them on how to be a professional. So yeah, and it's not being shy when you're in a room too, right? Like it's
Right.
saying, "Hi, my name is," right? It's back to that
Yeah.
old adage, right? Like just yeah, own the room you walk in.
Definitely,
Yeah,
specifically, I think as women, we feel this imposter syndrome more than anyone else, right?
absolutely,
So I'm sure
absolutely.
the women in business, in your network, and everyone who's been around you, have you been hearing these conversations as well, or have you experienced imposter syndrome as well?
Um, I'm a very loud, outspoken extrovert, so I don't know that I've experienced it myself. But I've seen it happen. I've seen it
Yeah.
happen. I've seen women shy away. I've seen them
Hmm.
not think that they belong in that room when they really do. So it's just empowering us to
Definitely.
to do those kind of things, and that's why we have events here at the Chamber like Connect Women, where we have
Yeah.
women influencers come up and talk about why you should be at that table and why you should be in that room. So yeah,
Definitely. I think women have stopped, asking for a seat at the table, and they've started building their own tables, and
yeah,
that
absolutely.
has changed the entire game.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. The staff here at the chamber, we're all women. It's a completely women-driven
wow.
organization.
Yeah.
So, pretty proud of that. Yeah.
So are we. And just building on that, Carrie,
Mhm,
let's discuss how strong local connections,
mhm.
create real business opportunities, something that you
Yeah.
just mentioned just right now as well. So I'd love for you to educate our audience from a layman's perspective. How can strong local connections create a real competitive advantage for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of probably the most underrated business strategies is
Hmm.
connection. You know, I see relationships move faster than marketing now, honestly. And when you're connected, you hear about opportunities earlier,
Yeah.
which is very neat. You get those referrals, you find partners,
Hmm.
you solve problems almost faster because you know who to call, right?
Yeah.
And I see it every day at the chamber. Businesses are hiring through their chamber connections. They land contracts or they collaborate even just on projects, little projects, big projects, medium-sized
Hmm.
projects, just because they were in the same room, because you never know who knows somebody in that room. So that connection is
Exactly.
so important. And it's a trust factor, right? I mean, we know
Hmm.
that people do business with who they like, know, and trust. So when you're in that room and you're recommended, or even if you're not in that room and you're recommended, you're being recommended by somebody who trusts you. So those connections are really, really important. And
Hmm.
sometimes trust can be the difference, right? They can be the difference between the next
Yeah.
thing for you or not. And it also shortens that distance between, your opportunity and the
Hmm.
action that comes out of it. So yeah, connection is so important, and keeping up with those connections is important.
Maintaining them as well,
Yeah,
right?
maintaining them
Hmm.
is equally as important because that might not be today that they need you, but it
Yeah,
might be 6, 7, 8, 9 months down the road. But
of course. Yeah.
maintaining that relationship and connection is super, super important.
This is such a powerful, point that you've mentioned and so well
Mhm.
articulated.
Yeah.
On that note, here's a special message for our audience, specifically for all the entrepreneurs watching.
Yeah.
In 2026, your belonging is just as important as your branding. If you are
Yes.
trying to scale your business from, a silo, you are working 10 times harder than you need to.
Hmm.
And to the audience, Carey's leadership in Whitby proves that the right partnership or the right piece of advocacy can change everything overnight. So
Hmm.
don't wait until you're in crisis to build your
Right.
network. Get in the room, and who knows, your local neighbors are your greatest growth partners, maybe, right?
Absolutely.
Community isn't just a nice to have anymore, it's
Absolutely.
a business
Sorry, and I was just
strategy.
going to say
Yeah.
it. I always tell people build your network proactively, not
Yeah.
reactively.
Exactly. I think we're going to, put that line in the video captions as well, because that
Yeah.
is a golden piece of advice, right?
Yeah.
Now, because, right, when local businesses support one another, the entire regional economy becomes more resilient and also attractive to new investment and new
Hmm.
investors. So you're contributing to the overall system just
Yeah.
by supporting one local business as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
Now let's talk about how regional collaboration strengthens business
Yeah.
advocacy as well. So
Hmm.
I'd love for you to just talk about a little bit on why is the regional collaboration specifically important for stronger advocacy and growth.
Yeah, I mean, businesses, they just don't operate within whatever municipal boundaries they're in, right? They don't
Yeah.
just operate in Whitby. They don't just operate, in Oshawa, which is right next door. They operate across regions. I'm sure you go across regions to enjoy your local favorite spot, right? So
Hmm.
when we collaborate as chambers, and we're one of seven chambers
Yeah.
of commerce in Durham region,
Hmm.
it strengthens everything we do when we work together. So from an advocacy perspective, that alignment is really, really powerful. When we're all saying the same thing, it adds credibility, it adds weight, and it's a louder voice for us if we're all working together and rowing that boat in the same direction, right?
Yeah.
And, we saw that when we're talking about tariffs. We're all saying the same thing. We're all relaying to government agencies what
Yeah.
businesses are saying. It works with the infrastructure, it works with workforce development. Our voices become really hard to ignore when we're all working together. And it just allows us to create larger opportunities.
Yeah.
All of our chambers here, we do joint events together, and it's not, just for us, it's for our businesses. We
Hmm.
give them those opportunities, those shared resources, that regional initiative, and it'll benefit them at a bigger scale, for sure, for sure. And it just
Yeah.
reflects how business operates, not just municipally. It's a regional initiative, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And building on that, for the audience and everyone who is listening to you right now,
Mhm.
if they want to be a part of it, how can they be a part of it? And also, just mention the events that they can be a part of and the notifications that they'll get, and like what's the process for them.
So yeah, I mean, we always recommend that you join the chamber where your business is located because that's where you'll get the most out of
Hmm.
it. And I always say to people as well, don't expect when you join a chamber that business is going to wrap around the business the block and you're going to be rolling in the money, right? It takes time. It takes intentional time to build that. Some connections take 18 months or business takes 18 months. I equate it to a chamber member or a chamber membership to a gym membership. You don't see
Yeah.
results immediately, right? You see them over time.
Hmm.
But we provide that platform, right? So events, the advocacy, all of those things. We do very intentional chamber events. They're designed to create income or not income, sorry, outcomes. We just don't want you in the
Yeah.
seat.
Yeah.
We want you to have an outcome. You're in a room with potential clients, with partners, but you're in the room also with decision makers. We have a lot of elected officials that come to events. So, you're in
Yeah.
a pretty powerful room. So you have to show up. You have to show up, and you just have to go to our website if you're in our area
Uh-huh.
and join. And we communicate with you every week. There's always a newsletter that comes out every week, letting you know what's coming up, what's not coming up, and what we're up to as well, and where we go with advocacy and how we are advocating on your behalf. Yeah,
Beautiful. I think
yeah,
providing direct access to municipal leadership, ensures that the business community is not just informed about the future, but
yeah.
also actively shaping it.
Yeah.
Um,
And the ones that come out, they get the most out of it, right? So be in
exactly.
that
Yeah,
room. You're not just
definitely.
connecting, you're learning, right? So just come out.
Of course, I'd encourage all of our listeners to build on what Carrie has
Yeah.
said and check out the links that we'll mention in the description below.
Hmm.
And I'm loving this conversation now, and definitely we'd love to have Carrie back for another episode,
Yeah.
maybe in studio episode the next that we
Yeah,
do,
that would be
where we
great.
can dive deeper. But for now, Carrie, before we let you go, if there's
Yes.
one final piece of advice that you have for the people who are listening to you, who are feeling isolated,
Hmm.
specifically as a business owner, but don't know where to start from. If you could whisper that one sentence into their ear, what would that one sentence be?
You're not alone. You're definitely not alone. And I know that entrepreneurship can be lonely. I used to be an entrepreneur in a past life. So I know how lonely it can be because you're working in your business so hard and every single day you're focused on day-to-day operations. Um, and you're not alone, but just start small. Like you don't have to be at everything.
Yeah,
But start small and stay consistent. You don't need to walk into a room and meet everybody in that room. That can be so daunting.
yeah.
Focus on one or two meaningful conversations every time you walk into a room. And like I said before, don't wait till you need the network. Be
Hmm.
proactive about it, not reactive about it. So it's built over time. It really is. It's built over time through small, consistent interactions.
That is a great reminder that sometimes the biggest opportunity is
Mhm.
just one hello away.
Yeah, that's right. It's not built in a day, right?
Uh, Definitely. Carrie, it
Yeah.
was such a pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your
Thank you.
insights.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
All right, that was Karey Anne Large from the Whitby Chamber of Commerce, a masterclass in how to turn local connection into a powerful engine for business success and community resilience. To all the listeners, thank you so much for tuning into the She and Success podcast, powered by She and Success Business Magazine. Be sure to subscribe for more expert insights and visit sheandsuccess.ca for more such resources. And lastly, a very special thank you to our exclusive shipping partner, Purolator, for their ongoing commitment to supporting women entrepreneurs and helping them build, grow, and lead successful businesses across Canada. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Kripa Anand signing off.